Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Secrets of a Witch podcast with me, Sabrina Scott. It has been a long time, so I just want to remind you guys, this podcast is about life, love, healing, witchcraft, spirituality, tarot, divination, energy work, and trauma healing, vibes, living a good life, everything in between. So hello. It is nice to be back. I feel like I'm still kind of coming back to life after my Mercury retrograde crazy flu illness that completely flattened me more than I've ever been flattened by an illness, like pretty much ever. So everyone, watch yourself this flu season. It is absolutely fucking nuts. I think I said this last episode, but this flu, unlike any other flu I've ever gotten, really helped me understand why people die from the flu. Like, it was pretty fucked. I was on 2 different inhalers, which luckily I already had for my allergies, but without that, I honestly don't know what I would have done. Like, it was a total mess. So take care of yourselves, be safe. This is not a thing where lemon water and oil of oregano is going to do a fucking anything. So keep your wits about you. Don't go out of the house. Do what you want. But just know the risks. This flu season is fucking insane. I'm glad that at least I've got it over and done with and have survived the Mercury retrograde flu. So stay safe, y'all. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a warning that it is actually insanely bad this year. The news is not lying. So yes, before we get into today's topic, I wanted to do a little mini advert for my year ahead readings. So this is something I do every single year, and I do it a little bit differently every year. But this year I'm doing readings for 2.5 hours, and how I'm setting it up is first we will read about the previous year, all of what all happened in 2025, going over the big kind of pillars of life, what you experienced, making sense of it, what to do about it next. The big asks for folks I've read through about so far have been love life. Obviously, it's kind of everyone's priority. Folks want to know about work, health, family, their kids, stuff like that. Finances for some folks, what they want to ask about. So whatever it is that you want to make sense of with the year that we've just had, 2025, a 9-year, the year of the snake. So a year of shedding, of endings, of release. As someone who was a snake in the Chinese zodiac, it is kind of like a bit of a nasty year for me, not the best, which is pretty typical. So if it is your year, apparently it is actually not good luck, which I think is why we're supposed to wear all the swag to make sure that we luckify ourselves throughout the year. So definitely going to carry my year of the snake stuff with me proudly, but also really kind of glad to have survived it, right? This year, I think for a lot of us was very cleansing, very full of release, getting rid of things, again, shedding skin makes sense with that snake imagery. And I can understand that a lot of folks are going to really want to make sense of what all we just went through and how to prepare and work with all these beautiful lessons that we've been fortunate enough to experience and live through as we move into next year, which is going to be the year of the horse, which is also a 1 year. So death and rebirth is really kind of the vibe. And horses, as Sagittarius, I can tell you, very masculine energy, very go, very fiery, very animated. And so we are going to want to hit the ground running in 2026. A tarot reading with cards for every single month of the year, as well as cards for the areas of life that matter to you. I call these areas of focus in my practice. This can be love, money, whatever else. The sky's the limit. It can really be about anything. And then, of course, a card of the year. So my card for 2025 was the Lovers, and I'm not going to get into what I make of that quite yet. I think it's still playing out, so I'm going to see how that continues to play out for till the end of the year. We'll see. And personally, I actually have not pulled my own cards for the year ahead. I think I'll likely do that over the next few days and perhaps around the solstice. Still kind of figuring out when I want to pull those. But right now, Sag season, as we move into Cap season, Capricorn season, and as we move into the new year, 2026, great time to pull cards on this. And if you're someone who has a hard time being objective about this, let me help you. It can be really, really hard to read for yourself around things like this, especially when the stakes are so high. When you read for yourself, it can be really tempting to whitewash things or positivity wash things and, not be honest with yourself about what you see in the cards and just kind of give it the most nice, happy rainbows and butterflies interpretation that you possibly can. The tough love is really important when it comes to year ahead readings. You don't need to pat yourself on the back too much with these things. Like, we all do need the real talk. And when I read for myself as well, I always pull cards for, what did I fuck up this year? What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? And also, what did I kick ass at this year? In order to have an objective, balanced understanding of where we're at in our development, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in our life, like, we really do need that balance. And it can be hard to do that self-critique when we're reading for ourselves and to see where our blind spots are, where our weaknesses are. So let me help you out with that. Would be absolutely delighted to do a year ahead reading for you. I will be booking those into the end of January, but I will be actually working through the holidays. Maybe I'm going to be taking Christmas off. Who knows? And I think I've got plans Boxing Day, but otherwise I am going to be actually taking appointments because I feel pretty rested. My sickness means that I was able to take some time off work, and so I'm ready to get rolling. And so let your time off be full of tarot readings with Sabrina. You can learn more about that at sabrinamscott.com/readings. And of course, you can just search on over to sabrinamscott.com and then click work with me and then click tarot readings. And there'll be all the information you need there about how I work, what to expect from a reading with me, and of course, also to book. So get on it if you want to. I would be absolutely delighted to help. All right, y'all. So I was going to do a YouTube live about this, and I still might, but I wanted to talk a little bit about forgiveness. And I know it sounds very strange, maybe, but I feel inspired to talk about this because last year on Christmas Day, I was taking a shower, as one does, and I had a nice quiet day to myself. I got my annual Christmas Starbucks. I went on a nice long walk in the snow and had a lovely time enjoying the quiet of the city. Everyone's traveling, so Toronto's super, super chill around Christmas, which I absolutely love, the quietness of a city. And anyway, when I was showering, I had this kind of moment that just hit me like a brick falling on my head from the sky, but like in a good way. And I just started crying and I couldn't stop. Like, I cried for like a long time. And what the crying was that I finally had felt forgiveness. And that was a feeling I pretty much have never felt before in terms of, my childhood stuff with my parents and all of that. I'm not going to get into what all went down in this episode, not really relevant. But if you've been in my world, if you've followed my story, if you've read my new book, Body Magic, like, you'll have a little bit of a glimpse of some of what I've experienced in my life when I was growing up and how it was a bad time, in all caps, underlined. And I carried a lot of resentment and anger with me, I think rightfully so, about that for many, many years. It was an anger that I still believe was completely justified and really propelled me and motivated me in my creation process to really prove people wrong that, yeah, I am worthy. I am enough. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with me. And that was something that that fire burned within me as a child, and it burned really, really, really hot and really bright. And alongside that went, anger, lack of forgiveness. And of course, a lot of these kind of self-help, acceptance, trauma books, not the medical kind of clinical ones, but the ones that are a bit more hippy-dippy, a lot of them do emphasize the importance of forgiveness in the healing process. And what I kind of feel inspired to talk about in this episode is that I was only really able to experience forgiveness, I think, because I had healed. I had taken some time away. I had healed my own brain. I had moved from disorganized attachment to secure attachment with therapy, body work, through fitness, through food, through, I think I already mentioned therapy, what else? And also, of course, spirituality, witchcraft, and magic, tarot divination, and my relationship to the spiritual world. And of course, my story of healing trauma with spirituality is in that book, Body Magic, my new one, which came out this year. Do go grab that if you haven't already. It's on Amazon and all of that. But anyway, I always resented this narrative, right, in a lot of the healing books, that you have to forgive. And you can't heal unless you forgive. You got to forgive first, and then the healing comes. And in my experience, that really isn't true. And I resisted this idea that forgiveness is mandatory. I was like, fuck that. I'm not forgiving anyone for shit. Like, we can maybe work on a relationship, we can be cool, but I'm not going to forgive fucking anybody before I feel ready to do so. And if that ever happens, who knows? And so it did surprise me when it occurred. You know, I was not trying to make it happen. I was not thinking, wow, I really need to forgive people. That was not on my thought process whatsoever. I was not judging myself for not having forgiven anybody. I was really kind of anti-forgiveness, and, you know, forgiveness out of sight, out of mind. Like, it was something that I always thought was irrelevant to my healing journey. And to be honest, I still actually do more or less think it is irrelevant to the healing journey. Forgiveness did not help me heal that trauma. I was only able to step into forgiveness after I had already healed that. And so the reason I want to talk about this is around the holidays. I know a lot of folks have really fantastic families and everything is going to be lovey and fun and everyone's going to have a really good time. But on the flip side, I also know that this time can be really hard for a lot of people where the family situation is not ideal. Maybe there's some abuse history there. Maybe there's some dysfunction. Maybe you feel triggered with your parents. Maybe, who knows? Like, the list is so long for all these different reasons and potential situations where the family is not a space of safety and peace and love. And I think that's something a lot of folks forget around the holidays. And it took me quite a long time to not be triggered around the holidays. I think it's only been the last 5 years or so that I have not been triggered around the holidays, which is crazy to say, but now I've become like a total Christmas person, which is nuts. So for the last 5 years, I've got a new tradition. I put up a tree. I've got the ornaments. I've got all this shit. And all of that was possible because I started making my own Christmas traditions and decided to figure out, what does this holiday season mean for me? How can I make this fun? And how can I decouple this from all of that trauma from childhood, where there's so many Christmases I can remember crying my eyes out, arguments with my parents or being treated in ways I really didn't like, let's say, to put it mildly and kind of generously, because it's not really what I want to get into today. But Christmas can be really triggering. The holidays can be so triggering. And if that is something that you're struggling with, whether that is dealing with kind of traumatic family members or, you know, trauma and triggers that you haven't healed yet, and just being in proximity to people who are activating and who are dysfunctional and who might disrespect you, I just want to kind of put the message out that you actually don't have to forgive them yet. You don't have to forgive them ever. Maybe you'll get there one day, maybe you won't, but it's not something to strive for, I don't think. And it's not something to beat yourself up about if you're not there yet. Maybe it will come, maybe it won't. But ultimately, we only ever have control over ourselves. And so if you are in a space of healing and working on your traumas around this season, I think the biggest thing to do is forgive yourself for your reactions, your lack thereof. Forgive yourself for maybe not healing fast enough, quote unquote, whatever that means. Forgive yourself for your ups and downs, and give yourself some grace and love as you heal from whatever it is that this season brings up for you. Because I know that is going to be the case for quite a few folks. The season is not all sunshine and rainbows for everybody. It is for me now because I've healed my shit for the most part, and that feels miraculous to share. And that's part of why I'm sharing it, because it almost sounds unbelievable. Like if you told me this was going to be how I felt 10 years ago, I would have told you, what are you smoking right now? What is going on? But it's possible. The healing work is absolutely possible. And you don't need to forgive anyone before you're ready to do so. It is possible to work on your own healing journey and your own process around this time, around this season, around your family, your intergenerational trauma, whatever it is, without forcing yourself through this hoop of, I need to forgive or else I'll never heal. So I really don't think that's true. And another thing I guess I wanted to touch on just briefly is there are some other, let's say, family members I've been in touch with here and there who are estranged, and from kind of the most of the family, let's say. I don't want to say too much about this, but one part of me was like a little bit worried of like, oh, if they hear that I have forgiven, so like, who the people that I've forgiven, will I then be ousted from this other part of my family that has not forgiven? And I'm not saying anyone should forgive, that's their own process. That's their own journey. But where I'm at in my process is I've forgiven, and I'm completely okay with being connected with folks who are on a different page about that, who are not there and who may never be there. And again, I don't see forgiveness as the thing to strive for or as superior. It just is something that somehow happened. And so I think there was a part of me that was like, oh shit, if they realize that I've forgiven my family, then will this other family oust me because, we're not on the same page. And then that just goes back to kind of show that the rampant dysfunction and potential for misunderstanding or miscommunication or black and white thinking, which is very common in a lot of dysfunctional families. And so it's an interesting thing, right? This concept of grudges and forgiveness. And I think often anger and grudges are 100% justified. And for a lot of my life, I didn't think I would ever talk to my family again, ever. And I had no desire to do so. And I do find it really interesting that as I have continued to do ancestor-based spiritual work and put up an ancestor altar in my apartment, I think over the years, the ancestors have really helped with that process, even without me necessarily asking them for that. And one of the first things I tell most folks to do whenever they're working with me one-on-one is, do you have an ancestor altar? If not, why not? Can you put one up? Because they are going to be your first line of contact to the spiritual world, regardless of whatever your relationship is to your living relatives or your recently departed, even if that relationship was absolute dog shit and you have nothing good to say about anybody. We all still need an ancestor altar, in my opinion. And of course, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. But I think there is something really amazing when we begin to do that work, because regardless of what our relationship is with our flesh and blood who are still in life, doing that ancestral based work, again, even if we're no contact, can help us to heal the intergenerational trauma and wounds within ourselves. And I think that is something that will just make our own individual life a whole lot better. It will expedite the healing process. It will smooth out the healing process. It will help put your own trauma and your own life and your own selfhood, your own traits into context in this beautiful way. And one of the things I found very interesting reconnecting with my parents after, no contact for more than a decade is like, damn, we really are similar in a lot of ways. Like, obviously not all the ways, but I remember there was a time where I was with my mom and my stepdad in the car, and my stepdad said something, and it just like something funny. And my mom and I at the exact same time just like laughed and said, did this like huge laugh and said, no, no, no. And then like laughed. And it was this distinct laughter that was just so, I guess, biological. And then we both looked at each other and then laughed more, being like, what the fuck just happened? And there's some stuff with my dad too, where it's like we're both kind of like a lone wolf type of vibes. And, you know, that's absolutely something I probably get from him. Like, he's big into documentaries and fitness, and all of that is very me as well. And just his intellect is something that I'm sure I get from him. Fuck, sorry guys, I just tried to kill a spider as I'm doing this podcast, and it has jumped somewhere on the floor. I don't know where. I thought I could record the podcast and kill the massive spider at the same time, but maybe that is not true. And yeah, now I'm outing myself as someone who absolutely kills spiders, because I do not need a spider colony in my apartment. So we'll see. We'll see if the spider reemerges, and then I will resume the spider murder. We'll see. But regardless of that, I do think it is really interesting to do some of that healing work. And it has kind of contextualized my own relationship to myself and noticing these traits that clearly were handed down. Like, whether we wanted it or not, it just is. Like, there is a lot of things chatting with my dad that I'm like, damn, like, we are really similar in some ways. And sometimes, like with my mom, we have our moments as well. And despite the years and years and years of no contact. And I think that has been a really interesting experience. And it's something that, if it is something that you want to experience in your life, and you're in that space of trauma healing or working through stuff with your family, it is something I'd be open to, you know. What is your relationship to forgiveness? Do you want it to happen? Do you not want it to happen? Do you resist it? And I think for me, the key was not making it a thing. It was completely out of my radar. Was not thinking about it. Was not pushing it. Was not thinking about it. And then all of a sudden it happened. And I think it has been a benefit to my life, because it means that I'm no longer clenching. I'm no longer hoping for a certain type of apology or a certain type of anything. There's just an acceptance and a peace that I feel as a result of this kind of spiritual experience, to be honest with you. And again, if you had told me 10 years ago that I was going to be saying this to y'all right now, I'd be like, you are nuts. But I just wanted to share that experience of just kind of having this kind of epiphany moment of forgiveness that just occurred. Again, with no trying or hoping from me that would ever happen. And it happened on Christmas. And I think that's because this season, the energy of it spiritually, and then just all of the reflection and body memories and all of the trauma loops and just family loops and just all of that stuff kind of coming back around right now in this kind of holiday season, I think it is a really interesting opportunity to reflect and heal a bit, you know, wherever you're at in your journey. And I think if forgiveness comes for you, don't resist it. Let it happen. Embrace it. Let it wash over you. Do the tears. And just feel the freedom. Feel the peace. And I'm not saying that you can't feel freedom and peace and calm without the forgiveness, because I definitely felt fine beforehand. But it was absolutely an interesting experience. Again, unexpected. But something I just want to throw out there for y'all to think about. You know, and just in case it's useful for where you're at in your own journey with your family, with your ancestry, with holidays, with all of that. Well, I just think there's so much opportunities for reflection and growth and healing during this time. So I'm going to leave y'all with that, and hopefully that's interesting and useful. And keep your eyeballs on my YouTube. I'm going to be going live a bit more this season just because now I can finally talk again, and I've got the energy kind of. So we're going to ramp that back up, because I was doing a bunch of YouTube lives before. And so just got to catch up on doing some of those. It's always really fun to talk to you guys on YouTube Live when you're able to make it. Of course, my YouTube is youtube.com/Sabrina Scott. And also I want to let y'all know that I am doing life coaching, and I have fucking loved it. It is the most fun. And if any of y'all need some help spiritually making sense of your relationships, of your life, of pretty much whatever, to be honest. I would absolutely love to chat and see if I can help you. Holla. CEO at sabrinamscott.com. Would absolutely love to hear from you. And you guys know where to find me. Sabrina M. Scott on Instagram. What else? SabrinaMscott.com. Check it out. You guys know. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.